All right, DL, welcome to the podcast. I have lots of questions about the new Bad Wolves album and your career, lots of other stuff. But first, I got to ask you the important question. One of my very good friends was terrified of you back in the Acacia Strain days. I think maybe you guys both played Ozfest or something like that. He was terrified of you. So tell me, were you actually terrifying, or did he just get the wrong idea?
I think anybody that thought I was scary got the wrong idea back in the day. I was a little kid. I was like 18 and people were like, that guy's terrifying. It's like, nah, dude, I barely have pubes. So yeah, I'm sure if they like came and said hi, they would have noticed how big of a fucking pussy I am.
All right. Optical illusion then.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I can scrap. I got hands, but don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah. Well, the scene back then that you came out of, meaning the sort of, New England, Massachusetts, like hardcore metalcore scene back then at that time was like, there was a lot of people doing a lot of scrapping back then.
There was a lot of breakdowns. A lot of moshing.
Yeah. A lot of people with a lot of problems that they wanted to take out on the world.
Yeah. I think that's what like people get mixed up with, like, back in the day, hardcore shows and stuff like that. It was scary music, scary people. So like everything must just be like terrifying and spooky,
right?
Until you get in there. And then it's just like, I don't know about you, but that's why I fell in love with it. Is like,
sure.
I was so terrified to do it until you went to your first show or whatever it was. And you met everybody and there's like,
yeah,
you're an 18-year-old and there's these 40-year-olds that are just being sweet to you and buying you. So like, I'll never forget one of the first shows I ever went to, Nile, Blood Has Been Shed, 40 Days Rain, old school East Coast Empire Records kind of show. And I was a baby and I met Howard Johnson. I met the hotel. I met Howard Jones because I was, even at that young age, I was blown away by Blood Has Been Shed set that night. And I just went over to him and I was just like man, that was so sick. And like, he gave me $20 and I went and bought a Blood Has Been Shed shirt. And that kind of like warmth and niceness from scary dudes. I mean, Howard Jones, when you're a kid, scariest dude ever. So like the fact that he was that nice to me, and that started it all for me, man.
I always thought that was kind of interesting that a lot of the people who, according to whatever zines and blogs and stuff at the time were supposedly the bad guys, were actually the people who were nicest to me. Like, like Isaac lived in Cleveland for a while when I did. Obviously there's lots of people who, would tell you what a horrible person he is. He was like the friendliest dude in the world. Mm-hmm. And it was more of like, at the time, emo, meaning different than what emo means now, but the emo and like indie rock kids that were the biggest dicks to me back then, and the people like Isaac and the Madball guys, when they would come through and stuff, or even the One Life Crew guys, they were just the nicest dudes in the world.
Yeah. Well, you can't judge a book by its cover, can you?
I mean, you can a little bit.
You can a little bit. Yeah. It depends on the book.
Right. Yeah. Well, I thought it was really interesting, bringing up Bad Wolves here. I thought it was really interesting a couple years ago or whatever, when, they were making the change in the front man, and Doc was like, oh, there's a few people we're thinking of, and he sent me a few of them, and you were one of them. And I was really surprised by that because, I mean, obviously I knew that you could sing, but the part that surprised me was that I thought you didn't want to tour anymore.
I didn't, man. Like my next 10 years of my life bingo card, like telling me that I would be in a band again, it was just a non-existent, not on the card at all. And I think a lot of that was due to me never seeing the ability to like make it a job, I guess.
Right.
Because like I came from that world of touring in a van and like getting home from tour and going to your job right away. Like,
yeah,
it was never like it never presented itself as like a career opportunity. And although like it's funny, I just did a song, I did a thing with Nick Nocturnal, the Octane Core thing. And I've seen it. I think it'll be out by the time this comes out, so I can talk about it. But like his joke in like the 30-second clip is like, join a radio rock band and like start generating money, like turn the printing machines on. But like,
right.
and that's such a funny way because I thought that like I naively thought the same thing, back in the day being in a hard band, man, those bands must be rich with all those hits and stuff. And it's like,
right.
It's not, man. So I like kind of flipped the song on its head where it was supposed to be about that, but like I kind of get a little more real with it. And it's like, man, we're still out here, we're in a bus on tour, but like we're still out here eating ramen. So
I mean, you got to pay for that bus, and that thing's not cheap.
That's it. And more so now than ever, obviously, like
yep.
Anybody that tours or anybody that knows like the touring circuit is just it's not easy. It gets harder and harder every year. So I forgot where I was going with that, but I in general, I just came from a
we were just talking about like, what sort of convinced you to start touring again, and meaning that like, they're probably like, hey, just so you know, you can actually pay the bills doing this. And you're like, oh, really? All right. Well, in that case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a little part of it. Cause I mean, like I just said, it obviously isn't, there's still hard months. Like you're still an artist. Like we're still chipping away here. And on top of it, it's like this crazy situation that Bad Wolves has had, like that not all bands have, like the singer change and like all the drama and internet stuff. And like,
yeah.
So like we are truly like, I'm in this band. We're on the second record. I've been in it for 3 years now, a couple of years, whatever it is. And it's like, we're still doing this rebuild. So like, yeah, it's not all roses and rainbows.
Sure.
But I think that the most appealing thing coming out of Acacia Strain and having some time to like sit back, do production work, do studio, whatever. The most appealing thing about Bad Wolves when the idea was even presented to me to sing for them was the fact that, I mean, I can flex my singing muscle. Like I could never do that in the heavy bands that I was in, but just really like the openness that there is in Bad Wolves in terms of like writing and there's
you can do a lot more in Bad Wolves.
You can do anything.
You can do heavy shit. You can do pretty shit. You can do anything in between. A little bit more creative freedom.
I've always wanted that in a band, always. And like even the other guys like John with Devil Driver and Doc, not so much because they, God forbid, obviously toyed with like melody and stuff and they had some singing parts. But like for the most part, our prior bands, we weren't hook bands. That we didn't have ballads. Like we were all kind of painted into this like, you have to write a metal record. You have to write a breakdown record. So like when John hit me up and was like, you want to sing for the band? And after everything, we talked about everything. It was like a offer that I couldn't refuse, man. I had to at least try because it just sounded so fun.
Yeah.
Especially when he started sending me stuff that they were working on too. Like I heard early stages of the song Gone and early stages of that song Never Be the Same and certain things like that. And I was just like, damn, like, it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. And after the Acacia Strain, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but you quit touring with the band, but you were still writing, playing, and producing with them for another album or two, right? Yeah.
Like we just kind of had we didn't have any like agreement or anything like that. I think it was just like an unspoken thing. Like I was in the band for so long, I was already in the role that I was in that we would continue like to do that until that, it started getting kind of weird. Like I was at home writing stuff, like people referring to me as the guitarist. And then like they have whoever, the one or two guys taking my spot, doing all the hard work, touring and stuff. And it kind of started to feel like unfair. So at that point, the band was like, yo, you cool if we like write with these guys? And obviously like that was just a pivotal moment for me. Like I had no problem with it, but from then on, like I kind of did my own thing. It's
a new era. Yeah,
totally.
And you were also doing a lot of, and a lot of people may not know this about you, but you were doing a lot of, I guess, I don't know what the right word would be, like production stuff. I think you were doing a bunch of like TV work and stuff. Is that right?
No, I was just working with a shitload of bands.
I thought you did stuff for like some like songs for like commercials or something like that. Am I thinking of someone else?
No, I wish.
Oh, okay.
I wish I had like an awesome lie right now. Yeah, I wrote the Last Hostess fucking cupcake song or something.
Yeah, I thought I must be thinking of someone else. Okay, so you're just doing band stuff. Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, and how do you feel about being a front man now? Because I mean, you sang in Legend, but that wasn't like a super, like, you guys didn't do a lot that I recall. So like
Yeah.
you weren't like out there touring in a big band like you are with Bad Wolves, kind of in the same kind of spotlight. How
Right.
did you feel about that kind of transition?
I'm still I'm still working on that. Like I'm still learning. Every tour we do is like you learn something new. You like I feel like it's almost like the beginning stages of touring with like Acacia Strain, where like you're watching your favorite guitar players and stuff, and you know, Bad Wolves has we're blessed with the opportunity, obviously, to play these like huge shows with these fucking legendary huge bands. Papa Roach, like the first tour I did, hit the ground running with Bad Wolves. Never sang a live show in my life, and it's like, all right, yeah, you guys are going on tour with Papa Roach and Hollywood Undead. Go. And then it's just like, so even that first tour, it just hit the ground running, and I was watching Jacoby every night, and even the guys in Hollywood Undead, and just you're just soaking in little things from everybody, and obviously still like trying to maintain your own identity, but yeah, just watching these guys that have been singers for 20, 30 years, watching guys that have been singing as long as I've been playing guitar live in a band. It's weird because it's like putting the training wheels right back on.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it seems like the transition, I'm sure it was difficult for you, but it seems like it was easy for you. Doesn't feel like you missed a beat.
No, yeah. I think that whatever I do, I try to approach it with as much confidence as I can. And I think a big leg up that I had coming into this band was the fact that I was confident in my singing already. And that's everything else, everything under that frontman umbrella. It's like, it's great if you're the whole package or whatever. But to me, with the internet and with everything, how everything is nowadays, still, first and foremost, worry about your craft. Like hone in. If you're a guitar player, practice guitar. Like if you're a singer, yeah. So I mean, you know me at this point. It's like I've always taken pride in whatever role I'm given, whatever instrument I'm playing. So like I take that very seriously. So coming into this, being confident in my vocals, that was like a huge, like at least that sigh of relief for me. And then like because I don't really have to think too much when I sing. Like I'm comfortable with it. So at least I could use that other part of my brain for like, oh shit, now we're shooting a video. Like, what do I do with my hands?
Right. I don't have a guitar to hold.
This is so weird. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it took a while.
I'll tell you what I really respect about, you know, those kind, I mean, all front people, but especially those kind of people, you know, like Jacoby and stuff that are just really like true, like veteran legends is like, even for me, just doing Twitch, you know, 2 hours a couple times a week, there's a lot of times when I really don't feel like it. And I really just, I'm like, God, I do not want to go do this, but I do it anyway. And, you know, I have the luxury of sort of sitting behind a screen and there's chat and there's videos and stuff. I'm like, what if I had to fucking get in front of like however many thousands of people they play in front of and carry the whole show for people that paid money to be here? And they have those days when they don't want to be there. You know, they just had a fight with their wife or they feel sick or whatever. And like, I just have tremendous, especially for the front person. It's true for everybody in the band, but especially for the front person. And like, how do you deal with those kind of days?
Just like anything else. I mean, you got to do it. I think the only thing that's different being a singer is obviously you're limited to what your body's telling you can or can't do. And that's obviously super new for me because I played shows when I was playing guitar live. I played shows on death's door, you know.
Sure.
And there's been quite a few instances with Bad Wolves where like you just, there's nothing you can do about it some days. And I've always kind of been like a germaphobe, but now more than ever, when we tour, it's like the first dude, and it's always the first week or something. Like somebody starts coughing, you're like, Jesus, we have 7 more weeks. It's gonna start now. So like, I'm just really paranoid on tour. I have like all these devices, humidifiers, lozenges. Like, I don't know if it's overkill, but like I'd rather be overprepared than underprepared. And
so this is how you turn into like your weird Howard Hughes thing, where you're walking around with like jars of your own pee for superstitious reasons. Oh, you know, wearing tinfoil hats. All that. This is how it starts.
They probably thought, like, all the guys in the band probably thought, actually, I know they thought that I was way more normal than I am when I first joined the band, because now they've seen the maniac that I've turned into in terms of like the germaphobe and stuff. And oh, I'm bad.
You get to be the diva now. It's your turn. You're the singer.
I'm like diva dad, because I'm like, we go through security at the airport. And I'm like, everybody put your hands out. And it's like a line. And I'm just like hand sanitizer for everybody. Like, it's pretty shot. Ridiculous.
So you're talking about dad. I know, your stories and stuff. Sometimes you post this, you have kids and stuff.
Yep.
It's gotta not be ideal leaving the kids behind to go out on the road.
It's so tough. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, ever. And that was not only obviously what we talked about, the prior bands that I was in or whatever, and how that wasn't. And
you didn't have kids then, did you?
No, and how I didn't see it as a career sustaining thing. And that was a big part of it when it was 2010. I think we just put out Wormwood, and that's when I found out I was having my son, and that's my first kid. He's 14 now. Like,
holy shit.
Yeah, it's insane. My son's 14 and my daughter's 8. So it's like, I'm just getting my ass kicked up and down all day. And, I that was a big pivotal moment for me, is like finding out I'm having my son, knowing that I don't see, or not knowing, but like seeing that I don't have a career in music. And that was just like, it lit a huge fire under my ass to like, all right, yeah, I have to take care of my family. I'm going to go get a normal job. And I want to be around for the years that like you don't get back. So
yep.
That was huge for me. And now, now that he's 14, like, and he loves music, he's into like pop, he's into The Weeknd. Okay. I hear everything that he's into. Bring Me. He's into all the stuff that's kind of cool right now. And it's awesome that like he's shown me bands that he's discovered and I've never heard of. So like we're starting to see eye to eye musically, and he cheers me on. He's like, man, get out of here. When he sees me get all like pouty lipped, he pumps me up and gets me out the door. But my daughter, that's a different thing, man. She gives me the pouty lip right back and just makes me feel bad. So it is tough, and it's something that I'm in the middle of training and working on my keeping those emotions in check.
Yeah, I mean, it's I have a son now, and I feel the same way. Of like, if I'm working, I feel like I should be with him, and if I'm with him, then I feel like I should be working to provide. So I feel like no matter which I do, I feel guilty.
Yeah, I think some days you just have to give yourself a pat on the back and just tell yourself you're doing all right, because it's easy to fall into that like the guilt trip of either side of it. I'm working too much. I'm not being a dad enough. So I fall into that, and it's a struggle every day. And I'm sure I'll write a song about it. Actually, I did already. So
okay, yeah. But is it out yet?
Yeah. No, it isn't. It's actually it's in the Dropbox still. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dropbox stage.
By the way, I didn't even get to tell you though. Congratulations, your son is gorgeous. What a fun,
he's so cute.
Kid. Yep.
He's so cute. I know everybody says their kids are cute, and they are, but objectively, my kid is really extra cute.
Yeah, he's a Gerber baby for sure.
Yeah. We always joke he should be like a model for there's all these like, clothing, like hipster, like baby clothing brands that, make him look like a little youth pastor. And we always say we should get him a modeling gig.
Yeah, dude. Cereal box baby.
Yeah. But we know what happens to, child actors and stuff. So none of that.
They get all done.
Yeah. So you were talking about writing, and this one of the things I want to ask you about is how involved you are with writing for Bad Wolves, because I know in the past, like John wrote most of the stuff, right?
Yeah, he's an animal.
Yeah, he's sick, but so are you. And I mean, so are the other guys in the band too. But I feel like having you in the band is a new creative dimension for them too, as far as writing. How's that going? Really good.
I think with like each release, it's a little more and more apparent of the like stylistically, especially. I mean, even especially with our newest album, Die About It, it's like I think it's changed quite a bit. Maybe even have come a little full circle to like Disobey days. Like
I think so.
Heavy stuff is a little more like
Officer Down kind of reminds me. Kind of reminds me of that. Yeah.
Yep. And there's no intention to anything that we do, honestly. Like,
sure,
it's just you pick up the pen and you start drawing, you know, that kind of thing. So like, yeah, Deer Monsters was kind of like halfway done when I came in. When I joined the band, that was like there was all the turmoil going on with the band and everything. So it's like there was that plus like having to go back to old songs that they had already worked on with the other singer and like finding out what words were like who wrote what and
Right.
getting rid of that and then rewrite it. So it was like this it was a very unconventional process the first time, especially I never did this before. I came in, it's like, all right, you're in the band, come to the studio, and it's like track this next. So I tracked the album in 2 weeks, and it was just very like breakneck pace the first go around.
Right.
So I didn't like really get to enjoy it. I was just learning on the job, and then we got to where it got time to start writing for Die About It, and it was just like a whole new ball game. We got to finally like take the foot off the gas a little bit, and like everybody either I guess every song is different. Some guys kind of go into their own corner and do their own thing, and sometimes you know we have little bits and pieces, and we all put it together in its final form, like at Joseph's at Sparrow Sound when we work with Joseph and Josh Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything kind of takes shape differently, but yeah, I definitely took a much bigger role in writing this album, and on the next it might be even bigger. You know, it's just depends who feels like doing what, who has the material. It's like
Sure.
And like you mentioned, that's the best part about this band is every single guy is more than capable of writing a Bad Wolf song or
Yep.
an album, whatever. Like, and that's what's beautiful about technology too. It's you don't have to get together. They're in LA. I still live in Massachusetts. It's like we still work on music together. I was writing a song yesterday with John because of technology. We can just hop on the computer and he listens to the session while I'm working on stuff.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. So like, and it's so streamlined and you can make changes so fast. Like there, yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing to be able to do that. And then to be able to do it with the guys that I do it with. And to, we're all like, we're pretty like snobby when it comes to quality.
Sure.
Production and all that shit. That I mean, you can kind of tell. Like with Bad Wolves records, they're always polished to death.
They sound amazing.
Yeah, they're as modern as you can get. So, yeah, to be able to streamline and cut songs as quick as we do and efficiently as we do, it's man, we're lucky.
When you're writing for Bad Wolves, are you writing top lines? Are you writing the whole thing? Like, how do you? What is your kind of role there?
Same. Every song's different. Yeah, like we've written songs where I just sing the hook first and then we start building stuff around that hook, or it's the opposite. It's like John writes a whole song front to back and delivers the instrumental to me, and I either track the whole thing or I just like scat out a melody, and then that melody sparks somebody else's idea for a lyric. So it's sometimes it's very like I worked on this thing alone, and sometimes it's very collaborative. So yeah,
that's cool, because I feel like a lot of bands now, which isn't a bad thing, but a lot of bands now is really one person does everything, and then you go in the studio and do your part of it, which is totally okay. But I think that there's like a certain magic to that, like collaborative, because I mean, nobody has all the great ideas, no matter how brilliant you are. Like nobody has all the good ideas, and it's harder to kind of involve other people, but I just think you lose some magic when you don't have that collaboration.
Totally. Yeah. I think you end up with a better overall piece at the end of it when there's not one dude, there's 20 guys working on something.
Right.
Like,
right.
There's going to be flavors in there that you never would have ever came up with. So, and I think that's, I know that's why our new record is like so eclectic. I don't think there's not one song that's like the same or repeated on the record. And I think that like we inadvertently try to do that every record. I know I try to, even like before Bad Wolves or even after Bad Wolves. Like I'm going to continue to always do that because I think that's just what I do when I'm working in an album format. But with that said, I would love to, I think that's the last piece of like modern that like we haven't adapted to yet is like the single.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that because you keep mentioning albums.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think your genre especially is a really singles oriented genre.
I think, like, to me mentally, I just think about like bands now that are afforded the being able to work on a song, one song for 4 to 6 months or something like that. That's crazy
Right.
to me. Like, we write an album in less than that. Like,
Sure.
so to be able to like really zoom in that far on one single song, like, that excites me because I've never been able to do that before. It's
Yeah.
always just like, we need 14 tracks in 2 months.
Right.
You know, like, all hands on deck. So like, yeah, I hope like sooner than later we can kind of dip our toes into that. But I know that like Better Noise is a label that is still all about like the album format, which is fine, you know, it's cool. Like,
Sure.
I'm also still appreciative of albums as much as like I appreciate the modern. I use Spotify. I don't buy CDs. I don't have like a vinyl collection or anything like that. But, so as much as like I appreciate the album format, I do look forward to like things being easier, you know?
Yeah. I just think I've always been like a singles person, even going back, you know, to the vinyl days and stuff. I would make mixtapes for myself of just the best songs, which were basically just like me making playlists.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I'm obviously weird. I've just never had like the kind of attachment to the album form that a lot of rock fans seem to. Like, they get really upset about the sort of singles first world. But you think about it, it's like albums only existed in the first place because they made financial sense for labels, right? Like, so in the beginning of rock and roll back in the 50s, it was all singles. And then they realized, oh, if we put all those singles together into this thing called an album, we can sell it again.
Right.
And we'll put a couple filler tracks in there so that it's something new. And then so they just did that to make money. And then people were like, oh, well, let's just write a whole album. Right. So the idea that this is like sort of a sacred thing that was always part of, you know, rock music is really not true. And even if it was true, well, I mean, it's a different world. We're in the Spotify and TikTok world. And if you want to make an album, that's cool. But I just don't really understand why people have this like emotional attachment to it, where they feel like, I don't know, like the world has gone wrong if people aren't making albums.
I don't feel that strongly about it. I never did. And yeah, I think that what you said is a good way to put it. It's I think more than ever now that moving to the single format and stuff has like really highlighted the fact that there was quite a bit of filler in a lot of those older albums. And like,
how many albums are there, you know, that are just back to back bangers? You know, how many like vulgar displays of power are there?
Right.
Not fucking many.
Right. And which, fast forward to now, when a band like us is still making albums or still writing 12 to 14 song records, that like now we are presented with the task to write an album that has no filler, all killer, no filler. So all 14 better hit, and so we have to do that on top of it being in like this time frame of like, all right, we need it in a couple. So like, yeah, it's pressure's on when it's record time now. And I would feel much relieved in terms of like that pressure if we do eventually kind of move to that single format. It'd be fun to spin.
And I think it would make a lot of sense for you guys too. In your genre, it's really just about those big hits, I think. Yeah. You mentioned another thing earlier that was interesting is about having, you know, 20 people or whatever work on an album, which is another thing that's interesting. You'll see the way that like metal fans especially kind of react to this. If you see some album come out and they're like, oh, there's, you know, 14 people that worked on this, like that's a bad thing. And I think that's kind of strange because to me, it's just like, you know, as far as producers and co-writers and stuff goes, to me, that's like if you're an athlete and you refuse to get help from a coach, like, why would you do that?
Oh, he has 4 coaches. He's
right. What a loser.
No, he wants to fucking win.
Right.
He wants to be as good of a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, I don't.
Yes, I have a strength coach. I have a nutrition coach. I have a defensive, offense. Yes, I have all the coaches.
Yeah. And like we mentioned before, it only ends up being a better product because it's going through so many different filters that it wouldn't if
and it's still your album, you know. If you do a co-writing session with someone and it sucks, you're not going to use it.
9 times out of 10, if somebody else writes a riff that's not in the Bad Wolves camp, it ends up being either retooled completely or replayed completely by me or Max or Doc or whatever. So like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that these, like, when there's a co-writer, it's not like, oh, we're taking this and we're just releasing it, right? Like
Copy and paste. Yeah.
yeah, no, a lot of times it's just a kernel of what the idea was, and then like it blooms into something completely
Right.
different from
Right.
what that. So yeah, I think people just like to. Bad Wolves is the band to, like, I feel like Bad Wolves has taken the torch from Nickelback, kind of like not will never be them, obviously, like they're huge, like this is
Yeah.
a different thing, but I'm talking in terms of like how much people like to talk shit about a band. Like Bad Wolves is the new shit talking band, and it's fucking hilarious. Like I love it.
I remember like years ago, I think it was like when the first album came out, like I posted something about it. And someone's like, why do you listen to that Navy metal shit? And I thought that was a good name for it.
Oh yeah. Some of the stuff you like, the brief swipe, I'll rip through the comments. Oh man, it really gives me a good chuckle. I
Or
love
Five Finger Gent Punch. That was a good one too.
Well, people are so dumb.
For the record, I think Five Finger Death Punch is a great band. Like I make fun of them a lot, but like I actually think they're really good.
Yo, you know who my favorite band is, like for life. I'm like the biggest seven. I'm about a day away from getting a Seven Dust tattoo. So like,
okay,
yeah.
Well listen, don't let me stop you.
Hey, I'm gonna get on my get denial right here.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Yep. Well, I want to ask you a question about the Acacia Strain, which is, to me, like, Wormwood, to me, is one of the absolute best metal records ever released. I think that is an absolute just god tier classic to me, that the more I listen to it as time goes on, the crazier it is to me how ahead of its time it was. I feel like that album could come out today and it would be like, it would still blow minds and it would still be like ahead of the curve. And I think it would be way bigger now than it was back then. How do you feel about that album looking back on it?
I think so too. I just don't think, even at that time, I mean, that was 13 plus years ago, 2010 Wormwood was. So like, for me, I think at the time when we were writing it, we were still in that like naive, well, we'll finish this record up and hop in the van mode, you know, like,
even though that was like what, album number 5 or 4?
Second to last on, I mean, we were still like fulfilling our contract that we like signed 2000 to like right. So like it was a long run, and I think at that point, like, to answer your question, like, I don't think we even knew what we had in terms of material. Most of that stuff I wrote, they were touring, they were like still hitting the road and working, and I was at home writing these songs, and then like we would meet up. And
oh, that's right, because you weren't touring with them on that tour, were you?
No, they were touring and I was writing Wormwood.
Right. Okay.
And then once they got off tour, we all got together, and then they would, like, Vincent would start.
But you were in the videos and stuff then, right? Still?
Yeah, like halfway. I what was there, one video? Yeah, no,
because you're in the Hills Have Eyes. You're in that video.
Yeah, I was in the Wormwood videos. Yeah, but I think what I can say I'm most proud of in terms of like that album is the production.
It sounds fucking unreal to this day. Like, I can turn that mix up so loud and it sounds better and better and better and never like breaks up. It's perfect.
Yeah. It's crushing. Zeus mixed that and like co-produced it with me and the band. And I still try and like recreate the snare sound from that album.
Yes. Oh, the drumming on that album too. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna be a total fanboy. I don't give a fuck.
It's cool.
The drumming on that album is so fucking good and like tasteful. It's so like subtle. It's not super flashy that there's anything on there where you're gonna be like, oh my god. But like his fills are just always have that special little sauce. It's just a little bit unexpected.
Oh yeah. Kevin was always like a very underrated, tasteful, super. He always reminded us of like a Kandiri, like Ken Shell.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very like octopus. Like he had his cymbals kind of far away from him. I loved playing with him, and I was like super spoiled in terms of like timing and just being able to present like weird beats and weird ideas to him
without it being too it didn't ever feel like it was trying too hard to be weird.
No,
that's the art of it.
Well, that's the thing with especially even that album. Once Acacia Strain started doing like 8-string stuff, we just started doing some kind of weird time signature stuff that like really wasn't apparent until you start playing it. And you're like, hell, why isn't this working?
Right. Like Tactical Nuke is a really weird song.
it was like literally that ends the album and it came out and people were like, they're just trying so hard. And we were literally that it was a joke. Like we like, I don't even think we didn't write that or anything. It was just at like the end of the recording session.
Okay.
We were like, we had a couple hours to kill or something while Zeus was doing something. And
like, fuck it, let's just do this.
Yeah, let's just do some dumb shit that makes us laugh. And like, of course, the internet takes it and fucking ruins everything. I
didn't realize people were pissed. I thought that was a really cool idea. I didn't realize people were like that.
Dude, you were, of course surprised. Yeah, of course they're pissed about something. Pissed and complaining about something. So,
yeah, the guitar tone on that album to me, like, it's absolutely perfect for that, like for that genre, and everyone's trying to do that now. And I just think there's something. I love the modern sound, but there's something about it that's a little bit too polished to me. Whereas I think with that album, you guys nailed sort of the tail end of the sort of older school, but the beginning of the newer school that to me sort of combined the perfect kind of, vibe of when recordings were real with the polish of like modern recordings.
I was literally just going to say that. I think that maybe that's what you're hearing is everything on Wormwood is real. I mean, obviously like the shells are probably triggered or whatever, but they're probably, I know that Zeus takes samples of all the shells before you start the session. So like, even if it is triggered, he's using sounds from that, the kit when you first had fresh heads on it and takes those samples. So, that's probably what the difference is. And a lot of people, anytime I do like ask me questions on Instagram or whatever, is the number one question I get is what we used for guitar tone on that album. So I'm gonna divulge that information right now for anybody that's wondering. The Wormwood album tone was a ESP 8-string, Stephen Carpenter to be precise. It had EMG in it. It had like a EMG 808, whatever the 8-string version of the EMG is. And it was quad tracked, and it had one set was a Mesa Boogie Dual, Rev F, so it was an older one. Had a special sound to it. Rev F with a tube screamer through a Marshall cab with T75s, and another set that was 5150, I think, like a block letter, not that it matters, but 5150 block letter tube screamer through Mesa Boogie V30 cab.
So nothing super fancy.
No, I mean, it's like the standard shit that you would have read anywhere on a Andy Sneap forum or whatever. Whatever.
The magic ingredient is the hands.
It was the hands, man. Yeah,
it is. And I know it's such a cliche, and I say this all the time, but like I've had the opportunity to play through lots of other people's rigs, and I don't even bother anymore because I know what it's going to sound like now. Yeah, it's going to sound like me.
Yeah, of course. and it's funny how like the internet will just deny that. Bullshit. Yeah. It's not in his hands. You can buy that amp. It's a thing for sure. Anybody that plays guitar, especially in the studio, and knows like how under the microscope that can be, they'll get it. Yeah,
like just the way you hold your pick, like 2 millimeters higher or lower than I do, makes a difference.
Yes, I mean even switching the thickness, it can be the same brand of pick, but just moving up a thickness or moving down.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. Yeah,
huge difference in like
all that attack
quality.
Yeah. Is it weird for you to go in the studio now? And I mean, I'm guessing you don't play guitar on the Bad Wolves albums. Is that weird?
I do actually a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just like if I'm writing something or there's like a solo or it's just
so
like,
if you write it, you play it usually?
Pretty much, yeah. Especially if a lot of times because of technology and the way that we write music, a lot of times our demo is almost a finished form song.
Sure,
so
yeah.
So a lot of that shit is totally usable, and like that's what makes our life easy when it's like,
But
all right,
especially because you know how to record too.
yep. So I have these like files that you're just gonna recreate, and it's gonna sound exactly the same anyway. So
Right,
yeah,
right,
a lot
right.
of times,
If not, maybe worse.
yeah, right. When you're writing and you're in this vibe or something, sometimes you capture something that you can never recreate. So that's part of like the demoing process that like I love.
Is it hard to? I know I'm really getting in the weeds here, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh, we're here. It's been a minute, man.
Yeah, with at least what 3 or 4 very good guitarists in the band, and people playing different, playing their own parts and stuff. Is it hard? Or maybe there's a question for Joseph, but is it hard to make all those different performances gel together? Because to our point earlier, I can put the same, I can reamp those through the same amp, and those performances are not going to sound the same. Is that a challenge at all?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I don't know how challenging it is for Joseph because he's really
it's his
good.
problem. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah, right. I mean, and he's excellent at what he does.
Yeah.
Like you can throw anything at him, and I've seen him get like pretty similar results. Like in terms of like what you're talking about. Like if Max sends him guitar stems and like I send him guitar stems, like they could be pretty different. But like you put it through Joseph's filter, and he finds a way to get it so damn close that like even us knowing what it is hard to decipher the difference. So yeah, it at the end of the day, it's whoever's behind the computer. If they have the know-how, then you're all right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I will let you go. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm excited to hear the new stuff, and I'll catch you around.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, and I hope we don't wait another 8 years before we do this again.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir. Bye.